Hello students, welcome to Renu's Englishpedia for class 12th. Today we are going to do the chapter Poets and Pancakes, which is the 6th chapter of the book Flamingo. It is written by Asoka Mitran. Asoka Mitran is the pen name of Jagdish Thyagarajan. He was born on 22nd September 1931 in Sikandrabad, Andhra Pradesh, and he died on 23rd March 2017 in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Professionally, he was a novelist and he had won the Sahitya Akademi Award for a collection of short stories. The author worked at Gemini Studio for a long time, but finally he resigned from there as he felt that he could not continue with the system which had built-in inequities. This excerpt is taken from his book My Years with the Boss, which is also known as 14 Years with the Boss. It describes the follies and idiosyncrasies of people who work at Gemini Studios in a humorous and a light-hearted manner. The narrative is written in a rambling manner. Rambling means to move from one topic to another without any direction. Asoka Mitran first talks about Gemini Studios, which was located in Chennai. It was set up in 1940 and was the most famous and influential film producing organization in India. The founder of Gemini Studios was Mr. S.S. Vasan. Mr. Vasan, the boss, was also editor of the Tamil weekly Ananda Viketan. Asoka Mitran also refers to the fact that Gemini Studios bought Pancakes, which is a brand name of makeup, in truckloads. He wants to emphasize the fact that Gemini Studios gave rise to many important actors like Greta Garbo, Vajanti Mala, Miss Gauhar, and others. Asoka Mitran, in his rambling style, after talking about Gemini Studios, starts talking about his own role over there. His duty was to cut out newspaper clippings and paste them in files. Many of those clippings had to be handwritten. Due to this, he was the most well informed about all the goings-ons at Gemini Studio. However, this led everyone to believe that he was the most idle person at Gemini Studios. His work was considered to be insignificant, although it was the most important. Asoka Mitran then talked about the office boy who would come to him and rage against Subbu, the number 2 at the studios. Asoka Mitran prayed for outdoor shootings so that he could have a day of peace without the rantings and ravings of the office boy. Asoka Mitran then moves on to talk about the makeup department, which was believed to be Robert Clive's stables. He refers to the fact that many of the landmarks in Chennai once belonged to Robert Clive. Then he starts talking about the makeup room, which was like a hair cutting salon with bright lights and mirrors. These mirrors and lights made the makeup room very fiery and iridescent. The makeup room was headed by a Bengali first, later by a Maharashtrian, helped by an Andhraite, a Madrasi, Christian and Anglo-Burmese and a local Tamil. It was an example of national integration. Strict hierarchy was followed in the makeup department. The chief makeup artist would apply makeup on the faces of the chief actors and actresses. Similarly, the senior assistant would apply makeup on the face of the second hero and the heroine, and the junior artist on the main comedian's face. The office boy was responsible for applying makeup on the faces of the crowd on days of outdoor shooting. On these days, paint would be mixed in a giant vessel and slapped on the faces of the crowd to close every pore. Having talked about the hierarchy in the makeup department, Asoka Mitran now switches to the topic of the office boy. The office boy, who was in his early 40s, had high aspirations when he joined the Gemini Studios. Although now he was a lowly office boy, but before that he had desired to become an actor or a top screenwriter or a director or even a lyric writer. He was a bit of a poet too, but now all hopes were shattered and he seemed to be very frustrated. He now had the lowliest position in the makeup department. The office boy believed that Subbu was the cause of his lowly position and all his anger was now directed towards Subbu. He believed that he was the cause of all his woes. Woes means complaints, ignominy, which means disgrace and insult, and neglect. The office boy believed that he had had more opportunities for success than Subbu, as Subbu had it very difficult when he joined Gemini Studios. Subbu had had to face more challenges as compared to the office boy, as at that time there were no firmly established film producing companies or studios. He also believed that both Subbu and he were equal in many ways. They had almost the same educational level. However, Subbu was still at number 2 position at Gemini Studios and he, the office boy, was at the lowliest position. He believed that Subbu had been more successful because Subbu was a Brahmin and had more exposure to affluent people and society. With this, Asoka Mitran switches to the topic of Subbu. Subbu's full name was Kothamangalam Subramaniam and he belonged to the story department. The story department not only had writers and poets, but it also had lawyers. Kothamangalam Subbu was the number 2 at Gemini Studios and he always accompanied the boss. Now, a very important facet of Subbu's character is that he was not a commander, but he was inspired when commanded. Although he was in the story department, but he gave direction and definition to Gemini Studios. He always had work for somebody. He was cheerful and loyal. He had the habit of being nice to everyone. He was charitable and improvident. Improvident means not being too concerned about securing his own future. In fact, he supported many people. He could suggest many ways of filming a scene. He was a poet and had written story poems in folk refrain with simple language. He was also a novelist and had written the novel Thillana Mohanambal. He was an amazing actor, although he acted in subsidiary roles, but he generally outperformed the main actors. He had many enemies, the office boy being the main. This was because he was considered to be a sycophant, that is, a flatterer. This was only because of his general demeanor and his readiness to say nice things about everybody. The truth was that he was actually a very nice person and not a sycophant. Asoka Mitran now talks about the lawyer who was also known as the illegal advisor. He too was in the story department but was not very popular. He dressed in pant, coat and tie, which was quite different to the dressing of the others. He was a neutral man in an assembly of Gandhiites and Khadiites, that is, those who wore khadi dhoti and shirt. He was a man of cold logic in a crowd of dreamers. In fact, he was so practical that he recorded the outburst of an actress and played the recording. This so threatened the actress that she completely left acting after this. The lawyer too was very close to the boss, and because of this he was allowed to produce a film which used a lot of raw stock in Pancake, which means that a lot of resources were used to make the film a success. However, the film turned out to be a huge flop. When the tides turned and the story department was closed, the lawyer, because he belonged to the story department, he too lost his job. This is quite ironical, as this was the only instance where a lawyer lost his job because the poets were asked to go home. Gemini Studios was the favorite meeting place of poets because it supplied good coffee even at night. Most of the main prominent poets visited the studio. All of them wore khadi, they worshipped Gandhi and were against communism. Having introduced the topic of communism, Asokamitra now starts talking about the Moral Rearmament Army, that is the MRA. In 1952, Frank Buchman's MRA visited Gemini Studios. It was a kind of counter movement to international communism. It was a great challenge for the Gemini Studios to host 200 people of 20 nationalities. This MRA was called by some as an international circus. However, they had no knowledge of animals and were no good on the trapeze. They did present two plays, Jotham Valley and The Forgotten Factor. Both the plays had plain messages and simple homilies. 600 of the Gemini family saw it again and again, not for its message and homilies, but for its excellent sets and costumes. In fact, the Madras and Tamil plays copied their sets for years. The set consisted of a bare stage, a white background curtain, and a tune played on a flute. Asokamitra at this point talks about the visit of an Englishman named Stephen Spender. His visit raised a conflict in the people of Gemini Studio whether he was a poet or an editor. The only British poets known to the people at Gemini Studios were Wordsworth, Tennyson, Keats, Shelley, Byron, Eliot, and they surmised means conjectured, assumed that the visitor was an editor of a daily but not of the known British periodicals, that is, the Manchester Guardian or the London Times. And as S.S. Vasan too was an editor, he had therefore invited a fellow editor. Stephen Spender was a tall Englishman, and he was not only an editor but he was also a poet and was completely against communism. The boss welcomed the poet but did not seem to have much personal information about him. His welcome speech was general but peppered with words freedom and democracy. Since the poet had an English accent, he spoke without being understood by the people at Gemini Studios. The confusion of his actual identity and the reason for his visit to the studio was unresolved. Asokamitra now starts talking about how the identity of the Englishman was discovered. Asokamitra wanted to participate in an international story writing contest being organized by the magazine The Encounter. He wanted an idea of the periodical before spending a considerable amount in postage sending a manuscript to England. He went to the British Council Library and found copies of The Encounter. He found that Stephen Spender was the editor of The Encounter. Having discovered the identity of the English poet, Asokamitran's curiosity was satisfied. However, years after his retirement, He was astounded to discover that Stephen Spender was the writer of a famous book, The God That Failed. In order to satisfy his desire for reading, Asoka Mitran would often go through the piles of books found on the roadside. It was in one of these books that his eyes fell on a book titled The God That Failed. It was a collection of essays describing the journey of six eminent writers into communism. These writers were Andre Gide, Richard Wright, Ignacio Silon, Arthur Koestler, Louis Fisher, and Stephen Spender. The God described in this book was the God of communism. Thus, the mystery of Spender's visit to the studio was now cleared. In order to understand this part of the extract, it is important to understand the term communism. Communism is the doctrine of an equalitarian and godless society. It failed miserably due to rampant corruption. Communism advocated no filial, that is, family, or conjugal love. Conjugal love means matrimonial love. It caused and spread unrest and violence among innocent and ignorant people. Most of the people who believed in communism were disillusioned, and Stephen Spender was one of them. Similarly, we can now also understand why S.S. Vasan's welcome speech was peppered with the words freedom and democracy. With this, we come to the end of the chapter. I hope you liked the video. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to Reno's Englishpedia for class 12th. Thank you.